What up, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On today's show, we are going to explore how today's individual entrepreneur was able to raise over $239,000 from the crowd on Kickstarter, and now they are on Indiegogo. So you're going to hear directly from this individual, and that's what I love to do every single week, is just bring on success stories. I want you to realize that people every single week are being successful with crowdfunding, and there's no reason why you can't do the exact same thing. I'd say for the vast majority of the guests that I bring on, it's their first time launching a product. Whether you're in the United States or even outside, in Canada, Australia, in South Korea, in Hong Kong, in Europe, doesn't matter. You will hear from a guest with your similar circumstances. And also we've had guests who are as young, I think as 18 or thereabouts, maybe 17, 18. Actually, I think I had one who was like 16 with their parents' permission. And as old, I think the oldest guest we've had was around late 70s or thereabouts. So many different people from many different walks of life, some people who don't have any kind of resources, sometimes this is their second or third business, so many examples of success, and that's what I love to do on this podcast. Not only that, but when it comes to this, I think that one of the best things that you can do as an entrepreneur is to give yourself examples of success, and here's why. When I was younger, I was going to school at George Washington University. I always was bouncing around different majors. Like I thought I would go into writing, I thought I'd go into psychology, maybe even do pre-med. I got interested in so many different things. I thought I might be a computer programmer because I love computers and online and that kind of stuff and, learning different languages. But at the same time, I always felt like there was never a career path that resonated with me because I didn't want a traditional career path. And for that reason, I always felt like a little bit of an outsider. And it wasn't until I started to meet other business owners that I started to realize that, oh my gosh, there's something out there for me. Marketing is something that I'm so passionate about, that I love. Digital marketing, business building. Like to me, it's just like, it's part of my blood, right? It's part of my makeup, part of my DNA. And sometimes you only realize that, and you only realize the potential once you're hearing from other people and you're surrounding yourself with other people that can empower that vision. So in today's episode, not only are you going to hear from someone who was successful with their Kickstarter campaign, but also the tactics, the strategy, and the resources that went into that. So you can also replicate this. You can copy this, whether you're trying to do a physical product, a gadget, a gizmo, a comic book, or something that's more creative in nature. Listen to the strategy, no matter what your campaign category is, apply this, and I guarantee you will see far more results than if you try to go at this alone. That being said, let's dive into today's podcast episode. And before we do, if you are interested in kind of just cutting through the fluff and really getting to like, Sal, just tell me what to do, right? I don't want to listen to all these episodes. I don't want to listen to all these stories. It's great for you. It's great for other people. But if you just want to know exactly what to do every step of the way, I got an answer for you. If you want to skip from A to Z very quickly, you want to skip to the head of the class, just go to the link I'm about to mention, and you can download a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. This is my book, which is available on Amazon and also on Audible. And Audible is doing a promotion where if you get a free copy, if you want to get a free trial of Audible, you can also get a free copy of the Kickstarter Launch Formula. Go to thecrowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link will take you there, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. All right, let's dive into this episode and discover how this team was able to do a six-figure Kickstarter campaign, and it's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we're speaking with two creators who've been able to attract more than $230,000 on Kickstarter from more than 500 backers. Recently, they just got into Indiegogo in demand, and this is for an origami travel solar panel. And we are lucky enough to have both of the creators here today. Ian and Jacob, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Salvador. Great to be here.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Definitely. Maybe we can get started. Let's start off with Ian. Could you just kind of fill in some gaps in that intro, tell the audience a bit about the product, and then Jacob, maybe you can afterwards tell a bit about the team.
Yeah. So Jacob and I, we've been working together for the past approximately 3 or 4 years. Our initial work has been on medical devices. Jacob he invented a very creative and innovative technology for cleaning laparoscope lenses. Well, as you know, it takes a long time to develop a medical device, and it takes a lot of money too. And in the meantime, we figured Jacob has this expertise in origami, and hopefully he'll get a chance to talk more about his expertise in origami engineering. But we played around with some different ideas and realized that this had huge potential in with solar panels, with solar chargers, and the team, the experience that we have, our team has experience working with NASA on their solar arrays that they put out into space, and we figured let's try to bring those to Earth and see how that goes.
It looks futuristic, like it looks like alien technology almost.
Yeah, Jacob, he's the inventor, so I marvel at what he's able to come up with. It does look very futuristic, and it's an amazing looking product.
So Jacob, why is this better than anything else that's out there? What are some of the the highlights, or for the audience who can't see this physically, maybe you could just describe it a tiny bit?
Yeah, so Ian and I, we started exploring the solar industry, and with solar, you need to have a lot of surface area in order to obtain enough power, and so that's why it's so practical for space. Is you want to have things that are stowed for launch, and then once you're in space, unfurl to have a lot of surface area to obtain a lot of power. And so on Earth, you have that same dilemma with portable solar needs or portable power, where if you're off the grid, if you're backpacking or overlanding, the ability to have a lot of surface area, a lot of power potential stored into a compact structure becomes really useful. And we started looking at, there are other portable solar panels out there. They've been out there for, a decade or so, but they're all the same. They're all, rectangular, trifold, semi-floppy panels that you kind of put on the ground. And even I just looked at the problem and thought, gosh, there's so much room here for a change in the space and to change up kind of what's remained stagnant for years with design and innovation, and really try and come out with something that's new. And, so one is the differentiator factor, but the other thing is with our origami pattern that we've chosen, that we came up with, it's all synchronously folded together. And so when it deploys out, it's all this rigid structure that can deploy to 8 times its stowed size. Versus you look at other existing portable solar panels that are on the market, and they fold into 3 parts usually. They're not rigidly deployed, so that once you unfold,
they're kind of ugly too.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, they're boring, right? They haven't changed for a long time. They all look the same. And then you put them on the ground, kind of in the dirt, to have them get the sun. And then they only usually fold out depending on the folding pattern, but it's 3 times larger, versus ours folds to 8 times its stowed size, but stays rigid the entire time. So there's a lot of
cool.
There's a lot of potential of where you can, like, versatility to where you can mount it and use it versus
very portable
traditional panels.
Yeah, it sounds like you can kind of take it anywhere. It's very portable, a lot of compatibility for sure. So out of curiosity, I mean, you guys have obviously come up with incredible invention here, and you've been working together to get this out there. What made you choose Kickstarter as the platform to really unveil this to the world?
Jake, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that. So I've used Kickstarter about 8 times now. We had maybe 6 times, I guess, but we did a line of carbon fiber guitars for a different company I co-founded years ago, and we used Kickstarter as a launching platform for us. And it was a fantastic opportunity to get the customers and the network of really end users that we'd be working with before we had a functional, ready to market product. And we found that launch, our first time we did it, was a great way to just go and get the funding before, but also in the process of doing everything, you're working with real customers, getting real feedback. And we found that rather than taking, let's just say, a check for $100,000, taking money from Kickstarter backers and crowdfunding, the crowdfunding community, that's coming with more than just the dollar amount. It comes with this whole community of really supporters and backers that are willing to help you develop that process. And so we ended up doing multiple products on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. and really loved the model. And it really, it forces you to get the product into a spot where you can present it to someone and convey your idea well and get the feedback. So we really loved the idea of, we're not ready to sell the product yet. We're trying to launch it next spring.
Yes, I mean you're kind of in that early stage. It sounds like that was a good fit for you.
Exactly, and then in that same time, these 500 backers were able to get their feedback on a continuous basis as we make design choices and features.
I love it, man. So you have different businesses, you have different ideas. Would you consider yourself an inventor, a businessman, an entrepreneur? Like, how would you define yourself?
Jacob.
Yeah, I think Ian and I. Go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I was going to say, Jacob. He's a Renaissance man. He does everything and anything. I'm probably more on the business side. But yeah, Jacob, he's amazing. I really just marvel at what Jacob is able to produce and invent.
So my first question for you guys, just looking at this campaign, it's so well designed. You've raised a bunch of money with this. What does it really feel like, before you're going live with a campaign like this, before you unveil this to the masses? What are some of the things that are going through your mind? What's going through your head? Just to let the listeners kind of have an insight there. What's kind of going through your mind before you go public with this campaign?
Yeah, I'll start. This was my first Kickstarter campaign or any crowdfunding campaign that I've ever been a part of, and I had really no expectations. I guess I had very low expectations. I would have been happy if 10 people had thought it was cool. I mean, I think it's incredible, but I had really no sense for how people would react, and so just after the first couple hours, the first day, it was really overwhelming. To see the response that we had and the feedback that we were getting. So it was scary and nerve wracking. And there were a lot of all-nighters pulled in a row. So we were also really tired, but man, it's one of the most exhilarating and thrilling experiences I've ever had. I've never experienced anything quite like it before. So
for you, is it just the amount of feedback which is pouring in? Is it that so many people have said they want this to exist? What part of that do you feel is overwhelming?
Well, maybe not overwhelming, but just it's a thrill. It was thrilling to just see that people were excited about it, like Jacob and I are. We spent so much time on it. We're so passionate about this and have a vision of where this can go, a big vision. And so it was just thrilling. It was so exciting to see people, I think, catch that vision that we have. Yeah.
How long were you in development or in the development phase before you really, pushed the launch button with the campaign?
So I think we had spent approximately a year playing with different ideas, and then probably 9 months before we really started getting serious and we really started honing in on this particular idea, this charger. So it was roughly a year, give or take.
It takes a lot of persistence, determination, really being willing to plot the course and show up, right? Every single week. I think there are so many people out there that have these incredible ideas which can impact the world, but for some reason they have something that's holding them back. What do you feel like is holding other people back from taking action and really getting something else out there?
Yeah, and Jacob can speak to this. Jacob, again, he's the crowdfunding expert here, but I think that we are able to do it because Jacob is really fearless and he's just a fantastic leader, and he creates a vision and he can push something forward, and nothing will stop him if he has a goal.
Yeah. I guess a better question for Jacob is, where does that come from? Have you always been that way, or is that something you had to develop over time?
I think going back to Ian's point, I think it really comes down to the team as well, right? It really is. If you have the right network of people, if you can build off of each other in the lows and the highs, it really makes pulling that trigger a lot easier. All right. So, putting out your stuff on crowdfunding, it can be scary, right? Because you're now showing the world what you're working on. And, you could do all the pre-market validation you want, and you could have a good idea of what to expect. at the end of the day, you're going to get some pretty honest feedback. And I think doing it, being able to pull the trigger with a team and other co-founders who are able to, really, withstand some of those ups and downs and the unknown of the future, I think is key. So when it comes to your question earlier about pulling the trigger on things or how to have that ambition to move forward, I think a lot of it comes down to surrounding yourself with the right individuals. And, if you have the right team who are, a little bit more risk adverse, right? Or less risk, or they're willing to take risks, and they're willing to put themselves out there and, give up maybe the sweet lifestyle of security of, traditional employment routes, right? So doing some of these crowdfunding campaigns or any kind of really startup, it takes a certain mentality that it's some unknown. And as you've known, talking to a lot of people that do crowdfunding campaigns full time. So I'd say one thing is surrounding yourself with the right team and the right partners to start companies with is a huge element to it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and I do think that's something where it's a deliberate choice, right? To really invest your time into something that can impact other people in a big way. So commend you both for that and your team. One question on sort of more of like the tactical front: if someone comes to you, Jacob, and you've obviously done a couple of different campaigns, you've been successful, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to do a new crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter," would you give them any kind of advice or any kind of high level tips as to be more successful with that campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. I put a lot of thought into this over the years. Kickstarter is a fantastic platform, but it's also a game, right? It's not just, I've seen some other founders who they're half-heartedly into some idea they're working on, and they think, oh, let's just throw it on Kickstarter and see what happens. And I think rarely that works out successfully. And I think you have to have this mentality of, if you're going to do a crowdfunding campaign and you want to do it well, you have to be fully committed to it. It is, it's a lot of work to go through the whole process of not just preparing the campaign, but, the fulfillment, the manufacturing. It's not something that you just do on a whim. And, and then even preparing for the campaign, there's some kind of mentality of, look, Kickstarter, you can't have that organic traffic, but you really need to prepare to build a community before, figure out your advertising strategy. And so I think, my one advice would be, if you're doing a crowdfunding campaign, be committed to it, be all in, and spend the weeks or months preparing to do it well. And you can, reap the benefits from it. But if you just go into it thinking, I'll just see what happens, most likely nothing will happen.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. What about you, Ian? This being your first experience, was there something that you learned that you felt like maybe you didn't read? There's so many articles out there about like crowdfunding. Do you feel like you learned anything that maybe isn't spoken about so widely, or something you'd like to share?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time responding to posts, whether it was on social media or directly on the Kickstarter page, and that was, I'm not really a big social media guy, and so that was one of my first experiences of dealing with people. I hate
social media.
Yeah, and it was a humbling but great experience for me to try to respond to people that were clearly angry or something, and even people that had great feedback and advice. I really, really enjoyed that. It was very difficult, but I loved going through and getting just a wide variety of opinions from people all across the globe. And that was another thing that really surprised me, is just what a global audience Kickstarter is.
So it kind of sounds like you're not taking it personally. Like if someone says, "Oh, I don't like this" or "I like that," I think like an inventor can take that very personally. But it sounds like you were more so looking at like scientifically through the qualitative and the quantitative feedback you were getting, right?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I think Jacob and I both agree that we haven't figured, we're figuring things out, and I think we've gotten to a fantastic spot. But especially when we launched, we don't claim, I think, to have a perfect product. And so getting that feedback, I think, is really important to push us and to make hopefully that perfect product eventually.
I've been getting so many more comments from people who are like, "Oh my gosh, this product looks so cool," but I've been like burned on a campaign before, or I'm skeptical about crowdfunding. What role do you think transparency plays, or how do you build credibility with a community that you're just building from scratch? Do you have any thoughts on that, Jacob, and the ways you guys have really tried to communicate with your unique technology when it comes to that?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And even early on, I think our first day we launched, we got some pretty public comments in the campaign saying, this is, too good to be true type of thing, where this is a scam. We were quite early on in the process for where most Kickstarters probably are in their product development. And that was some strategic element there. But I think, we had to answer that really quickly of, okay, how do we answer these public comments saying, is this a scam? Right? Like, I've been a scam before. And I think Ian and I took the approach of, that transparency was key. And we became very real people to our backers really fast. I feel like we wanted them to feel like, hey, this is, you're, not just investing or pledging to this product and the belief in the product, but you're, this belief in who we are. And so we tried to be pretty transparent and even open the door to going to some of these conferences and saying, hey, if anyone's around, come and meet us, and trying to showing that we're real people and we have a history of, high integrity of delivering products and doing our best, right? Obviously, there's always going to be hiccups along the way, but I feel like trying to, get people to believe in you as a founder and trust you that you're doing your best and using those funds wisely. I think that, they can be really patient and understanding when things do arise. But again, it comes down to, I think, being transparent with who you are and you're trying your best, and being transparent when there are hiccups so that they, can be understanding there.
Yeah, very well said. You guys have had backers from literally all over. I mean, US, Germany, Canada, Australia, Japan, like all over the world. Do you have any comments that kind of stick in your mind, or any things that people have said that have really, been kind of rewarding for you, or that you've, kind of taken to heart when it comes to your products?
I'll say one, and Ian, you take it from there. I was messaging one backer, which is really cool. They ordered 4 different panels, and we try and reach out and say, hey, thank you so much. Like, what, tell us about what you're going to use these for. And they responded, and they're from Austria, and they said, yeah, we live kind of basically remotely in the Alps, and we want to just kind of live off the grid and travel around in our van. And I think like so many months of the year they're just off the grid, and it was just really humbling to see this, enabling this kind of this really cool, adventurous lifestyle that we love and we love to promote too. And just seeing someone's in Austria living out in the Alps, trying to down the road using our panels to enable this. It was really rewarding, really cool to just so far on the other side of the world, impact people's lives that way.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's almost like a commercial. Like, that just sounds like a great lifestyle to live, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you had one to add to that one, Ian. But
I do. I have been amazed by the response we've received from the Japanese, our Japanese customers. It's been incredible, the interest. And my parents live in Japan and have lived there for years, and I've been able to visit them, and I love the Japanese culture. And so for me, that's been just a thrill to see them interested in this product. And I hope we're giving the honor and respect to the beautiful origami arts that they've created. And so for me, that's been a real thrill.
Yeah, that's very cool as well. I think a lot of people who are listening to the show, they'll probably be like, "Well, that's easy for these guys because they have like such a beautifully designed product." But I know it doesn't obviously start there. Do you have any thoughts on how to get really good customer research or feedback when you're kind of in the early stages with the product? Did you have any tactics or strategies that you used when it came to this?
Yeah, I mean, we're with the stage that we're at with the company and the product is, we started getting a lot of feedback really fast. And I think people are scared to get feedback. And in many ways, especially from the inventor standpoint, you don't want to hear people saying your idea stinks or it's not going to work. But at the end of the day, you need to hear that sooner than later and figure out, okay, well, why is this not going to work? And so I think Ian and I both took the approach of, we wanted to make sure we had some ideas solidified and having some IP around some of the concepts, but trying to just be transparent early on and trying to run, we ran some advertising campaigns pre-launch just with some surveys of, getting different feature feedback. And sometimes it was hard to swallow of like, oh man, like, is this actually going to work? But then other times you start, then as you narrow down on, getting feedback and accumulating the data and realizing, okay, we got 1,000 responses and 80% of them say that they want these features over that feature. Then you start, emerging this new product that fits this mold of what you feel a lot more confident in. And so I think, that getting that feedback is key. And we don't have everything figured out, as Ian said. And even then, our product is pretty early on in the development process for where most Kickstarters normally probably are and should be. But we really believe that, conveying the idea early on and getting that feedback earlier on so that we can make the right decisions was a key element to making sure we did it right and delivered a high quality product with features that we know were important to the customers rather than what we thought was important.
Interesting. I would say that's a very different approach because I think a lot of people kind of hold on to the product because they're afraid that like someone's going to steal their idea, right? Or they're afraid that, oh no, it's not fully baked yet, so I can't go to market. But you actually took the opposite approach, which was get into contact with customers early on, get their thoughts and feedback, and kind of like build the product with them almost.
Yeah, exactly. And we had to be careful still of, not showing things that had potential IP around it. And so, we can't be completely, throwing the idea out to the public for anyone to take perhaps, but we still wanted to, early on, build it with the customer in mind.
Well said. Well said. So what's the vision here? I know that solar technology I feel like it's in its infancy, honestly, and, just continuing to get better and better. And this idea of having a cool lifestyle where you can travel and take this with you. What's kind of the overall vision here when it comes to the brand?
Go ahead, Ian.
Okay. So our vision is, and hopefully we conveyed this in our Kickstarter, and hopefully this also aligns with people having trust in us, is that we hope this is the beginning of something much bigger. And I think Jake and I would love to do larger sizes. We think this technology makes even more sense at larger scale. So larger sizes there. And then from there, the applications, there's a lot of applications. I know Jake has a lot of ideas already about whether this is sort of a covering or using solar panels that can be deployed from cars or numerous different ideas. But again, we think this is the beginning of something really big. So
very cool. Very cool.
And
I'll add just a little bit to that is, I mean, as Ian said, there's the whole idea of portable power, usable power on the go is really, really important, especially as we live in a, progressively more in a world where we rely on our electronic devices, right? Whether they're simple GPSs or phones, or, other, internet services off the grid, whatever it might be, we're more and more needing power needs and reliable power. And solar is, it can be slow, but it's also always, it's very reliable. And so, and there's this important need to have compact outdoor gear and, more than just solar, just having interesting,
origami-based engineering principles where we can have really compact and creative, products. Solar being one really big application there is really useful to have really compact things that then unfold into something useful, right? That can be, easily transported and very portable.
Yeah, I love the off the grid element, and it will be useful for the eventual zombie apocalypse, of course.
Exactly.
Awesome, guys. Well, I do have one or two more questions, but before we get to that, where can people go to learn more about your campaign? I know that you're now going into in-demand. Where can they go to learn more?
Our website, segoinnovations.com is probably the best place for that. Yeah. And then, like you said, our Indiegogo on demand.
Okay, so they can search Sego charger right on in demand, looks like.
Yep.
And any idea how long you guys will be in demand? Another 30 days or?
Yeah, we actually have, still a few months, we were planning on delivering our first, the first products in this spring. So we're not sure how long we'll keep it up, but we have a few months actually where we're going to be keeping it passively open for people to come in and explore, pre-order as needed. It's not going to be the big rush necessarily at Kickstarter, but keeping that door open for in demand is going to be open for a few months as we continue developing, and it'll be a place for us to update the prototypes and show progress, and have a spot available for people to go in and pre-order.
Awesome. So I'll be sure to link that up in the show notes so everyone can go check that out. So I have two more questions for you. My first question is going to be, if you're looking backwards and you were to be able to talk to yourself before you really got started with this process, maybe this is a better question actually for Ian. If you were to be able to talk to yourself, go back in time before you actually started this process, would there be anything you would tell yourself, either a bit of advice, a tip, something you wish you knew, anything like that?
Oh, that's a great question. I kind of go back to what Jacob was saying about getting feedback early and as much as you can. I think we could have I think we did a great job of getting feedback early, but I think we could have always done better on that. But I think that was, like Jake said, I think that was crucial, and it's not comfortable. But Jake's concept of getting that feedback early, really made, I think, all the difference. So
well said. So my final question, and we can end on this note. We can either end with a quote that you like. We could end with a word of encouragement for other creators that are out there that are looking to launch campaigns, a final tip about business or crowdfunding, anything like that. And we can end on that note. And let's start with Jacob.
Yeah, I would say, there's nothing more rewarding as an innovator, whether you're on the business end or on the engineering or whatever it is. If you're an innovator, there's nothing more rewarding than getting a response from from the world and from the community, even if it is a very small response. And so I think there's it's very rewarding. And I would say, just if you're any kind of innovator, just go forward with something. And you don't even have to have a good idea of what it is. Just go forward with anything, and it'll evolve into something. And Ian and I, we went forward with a consumer product, knowing it was going to be some kind of origami thing. And that, over this year, it evolved into this solar panel. And I don't think a year and a half ago, we would have known that's what we'd be doing right now. So I just would say, yeah, if you have ideas, if you're an innovator, even if you don't have everything ironed out, you don't have an idea even, just go forward with something, to start getting feedback on anything. And I think that's just the first step, just to get going in this process and get closer to just something that can become tangible.
Love it. And just to repeat that question for you, Ian, we could end with either a final quote, a word of encouragement, or a final tip that you've learned about crowdfunding or business you'd like to pass on.
Great. I have a quote, and you can tell me if it's cheesy once I finish it, and it's an anonymous quote. But I love it. And to me, it speaks really to being an entrepreneur and a builder. It's impossible, said pride. It's risky, said experience. It's pointless, said reason. Give it a try, whispered the heart.
Ooh.
I love that. That just speaks to me. So, but
I love that one. I might steal that one.
Do it.
Yeah, I love that. And just to kind of cap this off, I think like what you said, you said, is just being willing to try it, right? Being willing to lean into it. That means so much. And you guys, thank you so much for coming on the show, providing some great advice, sharing a bit of your story. Really appreciate it, and look forward to your next launch.
Thanks, Salvador. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. I hope that you took away a wealth of information in today's podcast episode. Go and check out the campaign, obviously, and really dive in as well to some of the other episodes that I have on this podcast. Got so many lessons just chocked full of crowdfunding gold. Like, we literally could not fit more into these podcasts unless I made it like a 3-hour long show. Maybe in the future, right? Especially, I'm thinking about doing like a live podcast. That could be really cool as well. But like I said at the beginning of this episode, if you just kind of want to cut from A to Z very quickly, really just get to the result. Not only do I have that book, but I also have a video training course, which is available for free to you. I make this available to my listeners, and it's kind of like an accompaniment, if you will, to my actual book. So if you get the book, it's also a great way to kind of learn with video as well. And this is not only going over the tutorials when it comes to Kickstarter, but also it talks a lot about the secrets that I've discovered when it comes to getting a campaign funded. So if you want to learn the tricks and the secrets that go into getting a campaign funded, go and check out this free course on Kickstarter at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter will take you there. One of the things that I wanted to kind of share with you guys, and for me, this is a huge learning lesson, right? And I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to improve. I'm always trying to get better, get access to the right information, surround myself with the right people. And kind of in my early days, I never realized that I kind of had this tenacity or this desire to build a business, right? And it took me so long just to get over the trepidation and the fear of putting myself out there online, of being willing to try to create something from scratch, of being willing to market the heck out of it, and get tons of people checking it out. Sometimes that fear is almost like a sense of paralysis, right? And you kind of talk yourself out of doing something that you've always wanted to do. And whenever you hear that little voice in your head, you kind of have to combat it, right? You have to talk yourself into it. You have to silence that voice, because it will hold you back from executing in so many ways. I remember when I was younger, and I just loved like making jewelry. I loved making things when I was little, and I always wanted to learn how to like sell it, and want to just like sell it to my friends and like sell it online even. And I never did it. And it's because I always felt fear. I thought that like someone might not want to buy it, or I felt I'd be like weird to like ask someone to buy something that I made. And for so long in my life, I had so many great business ideas, but I never took action on any of them because I was afraid of failure. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of people laughing at me, being a laughing stock, feeling like I just didn't know what I was doing. And it was only until I eventually started to take action that I realized, hey, the only thing that's actually holding you back from success is you. The only thing that's holding you back from seeing results is you talking to yourself in the mirror, talking yourself down from that actual thing you want. Whether that's business or just even when I was younger, seeing a beautiful girl and being so afraid to talk to her because I was just scared and I didn't know how it would go. I regret far more the things that I did not do than the things that I've tried and failed. So there's a culture, I think, when you're starting something new and trying to grow something, that you got to be willing to push through that fence, that sense of failure, and really be willing to push through that fear. So if nothing else, man, I really hope that you use this as an opportunity this week to do something that you're afraid of. And even if you need a little bit of help with that, I can help you every step of the way. I offer myself to my community through intensive coaching calls where you can actually book an individual intensive coaching call with me. And not only can we talk about crowdfunding, Kickstarter, helping you raise money, the strategy behind that, the tactics, the tools, the resources, what you got to do every step of the way, evaluate your current situation, which platform you should be launching on, the strategy to do that for your unique case and category, and go into all of that, but also review what you've been doing up until this point in time, introduce you to tools and resources and other people in the industry you might not even know. And lastly, if you do need help on the execution side, also introducing you to ways that I can help you with execution on your project. If that sounds like something that's been interesting to you and you feel like there are a lot of things holding you back, this can be a great option to really kind of light a fire underneath this and really plow through those elements of fear. Go and check out this link I'm about to mention to book your individual coaching call with me, and that is a little bit of an investment. So make sure you fill out the form ahead of time. Tell me more about you. Tell me about what you're trying to achieve. Go to the link at crowdcrux.com/coaching, and you can book your intensive coaching call. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. We'll take you there. If you do nothing else, go check out some of my other episodes. Hope you enjoyed this particular podcast. Give me a positive rating and review on iTunes, and I will see you next time.